The quiet hum of the small human exploration ship drifted through the cold darkness of space. No one on board knew that their course was slightly off. It was a tiny mistake, a small navigation glitch that happened during a simple jump between two star systems. The crew expected nothing unusual. They were relaxed, almost bored, as the blue jump corridor opened in front of them. But when the ship came out the other side, the view outside the windows changed everything. Instead of empty space, a massive structure blocked the stars. It was wide, sharp, and shaped like a giant metallic spearhead. Countless lights glowed across its surface. It looked too large to be real, as if an entire mountain had been carved and pushed into orbit. The human crew sat in silence for a moment, trying to understand what their eyes were seeing. It was not one ship, it was many. Around the colossal vessel floated dozens of smaller ones, all perfectly aligned and moving together like a single, unified swarm. The humans had entered a region they had never seen on any map. Their screens filled with unknown symbols, strange energy signatures, and automated warnings that made no sense. The ship's captain, a calm woman named Mara Hayes, looked at her crew and waited for panic. But no one panicked. They only stared. Humans had seen worse things before. They had survived disasters, wars, black holes, and even strange cosmic storms. Compared to all that, a giant alien fleet was surprising, but not terrifying. Mara took a slow breath and ordered the ship to hold position. She expected aggressive moves from the alien fleet, but nothing happened. Instead, a low vibration passed through space, like a deep echo traveling across the void. The humans realized it was a communication signal. They tried to decode it, but even the best translation systems failed. The message repeated again and again, slow and steady, until the humans finally understood that it was asking for identification. Mara sent back a simple response with their ship name, crew list, and peaceful intent. She did not add fear to her voice because she felt none. The crew waited. Moments later, beams of soft, golden light scanned their tiny ship. It looked like a harmless inspection, but on the alien vessels, alarms flashed. Their systems had never seen anything like human biology. The readings showed strange resistance, unusual energy patterns, and a level of mental stability that confused their sensors. Inside the alien flagship, the Galactic Empire's officers watched the scan results with growing unease. They expected primitive life forms, weak explorers from some forgotten rock. But the humans appeared calm. Too calm. For most species, meeting the Empire meant fear, panic, or surrender. Yet these humans were sitting comfortably in their chairs, acting as if they were waiting for a weather report. This reaction was rare, almost unheard of. The aliens whispered among themselves, wondering if humans were hiding a secret power. The humans, however, were simply being themselves. After several minutes, the alien fleet repositioned. Giant ships rotated, smaller fighters aligned into formation, and energy shields shifted into a defensive pattern. To them, this was a sign of caution. To the human crew, it looked beautiful. One of the engineers even smiled and said that the alien ships moved like fish in a glowing ocean. No one on the human ship understood that their reactions were creating even more confusion for the aliens. Another communication signal arrived, this time clearer. The aliens tried to use a simple shared language. The voice that came through was deep and formal, asking why humans had entered the Imperial domain. Mara explained the navigation glitch, still speaking with steady calm. Her voice carried no fear, no stress, no apology that sounded desperate. The aliens noticed this small detail. In their culture, speaking calmly during danger meant extreme confidence or extreme danger. They could not decide which one humans represented. The aliens asked if humans were aware of where they were. Mara admitted they were not. The alien voice paused, as if surprised. Then it explained that they had entered the territory of the oldest and most powerful empire in the region, a place that no foreign species had entered without permission for centuries. Mara listened with interest, nodding lightly as if hearing a story from an old book. This reaction made the alien commanders deeply uncomfortable. On the observation deck of the flagship, several alien strategists eyed the human ship. It was small, it was not armed with anything serious. It posed no threat. But the humans' calmness did. Their behavior did not match their equipment. In every known case, species who acted with such confidence carried weapons of unimaginable power. The aliens could not detect any such weapons, but they also could not accept that the humans' emotional control came naturally. The humans, on the other hand, still believed they were in a harmless misunderstanding. Mara asked politely if they were allowed to leave. The alien commanders stared at each other, unsure how to answer. Allowing them to leave might show weakness. Keeping them here might cause conflict. They needed more information, more scans, more analysis, and more understanding of these strange humans who reacted to danger like they were sipping tea. Finally, the alien voice requested that the humans follow an escort to a nearby station for inspection. Mara agreed without hesitation. It seemed reasonable to her. The alien commanders watched the human acceptance with shock. No fear, no anger, no tension. It made them question if humans even understood danger at all. As the human ship slowly followed the escort, the alien fleet observed every movement. The humans looked at the huge structures around them with curiosity instead of fear. They pointed at the glowing engines, admired the ship designs, and even joked about how much fuel those massive vessels must use. The aliens watched in silence, feeling something new, uncertainty. To them, humans were beginning to look less like explorers and more like something they had never encountered, beings who walked into danger with a steady heartbeat and clear eyes. It unsettled them. It fascinated them. And most of all, it made them wonder if humans were far more dangerous than their small ship suggested. The human ship moved slowly between the massive alien vessels, guided by an escort of sharp, triangular fighters. Their engines glowed with cold blue light, and their movements were precise and controlled, as if every ship shared the same mind. The humans watched with quiet admiration, speaking softly among themselves. They were not worried. They were not stressed. They were simply observing, treating the entire situation like a scientific field trip. Inside the alien flagship, however, the atmosphere was far from calm. Dozens of officers stood around a glowing table showing the human ship's path. The readings around the small vessel confused their sensors. There was nothing impressive about the ship itself. It was old technology, simple hull design, weak shields, but the humans inside were different. Their heart rates were steady. Their stress levels were strangely low. Their body language showed no fear, no submission, not even discomfort. The aliens tried to interpret this behavior, but failed. One alien officer whispered that humans might be using emotional suppression implants. Another suggested that they belonged to a warrior species that had forgotten fear long ago. A third believed humans were simply too foolish to understand the danger they were in. The High Commander rejected all three ideas. There was something else going on, something deeper, something unknown. As the human ship approached the alien station, the crew looked through the large windows at the enormous structure. It was a floating city made of shining metal, surrounded by rings of bright energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. The station was shaped like a giant flower made of steel, with long petals stretching around a glowing central tower. Hundreds of vessels moved in and out of docking bays, forming patterns that seemed almost artistic. One of the human engineers, named Leo, smiled and said the station looked like a giant space blossom. Another crew member laughed softly and agreed. Their relaxed conversation echoed through the bridge. The aliens monitoring their audio feed were shocked again. Even now, surrounded by the heart of the Empire, they talked like tourists. When the humans finally docked, a smooth voice from the station asked them to step out and follow the greeting party. Mara Hayes nodded and gathered her team. She reminded them to stay respectful and peaceful, though she doubted any of them needed the reminder. They stepped out into a long, bright corridor filled with a soft golden glow. The walls were polished metal, etched with alien markings that pulsed gently, as if alive. Waiting for them stood a group of tall alien officers. Their armor was sleek, dark, and decorated with glowing symbols. Their faces were calm, but their eyes watched every movement with intense caution. The lead officer stepped forward and introduced himself in a rough but understandable version of human language. Mara answered politely, her tone even and friendly. She extended her hand in a human gesture of greeting. The alien officer hesitated, unsure if physical contact was safe or offensive, but Mara waited patiently until he lightly placed his hand in hers. She shook it gently, smiling. The alien observers felt a new wave of confusion. Humans were behaving with simple friendliness, as if meeting neighbors instead of the Empire's highest military authority. The officers led the humans through the station. Everything inside was magnificent, tall glass windows showing the stars, long bridges crossing open spaces filled with floating platforms, and enormous halls filled with glowing data screens. The humans admired everything with open curiosity. Their eyes wandered, their expressions calm and thoughtful, Not a single hint of fear appeared. The aliens recorded every reaction. They reached an examination chamber. It was not meant for interrogation, but for analysis and registration. The humans entered without hesitation. This surprised the aliens again. Most species resisted. Some begged. Others tried to hide their fear. But humans walked inside casually, looking around and whispering how advanced the technology seemed. Machines scanned them from head to toe. Strange symbols appeared on the displays. The aliens watching the results were shocked. Human biology was strong. Their muscles were dense. Their bones were far tougher than expected. Their nerves carried signals faster than average alien species. Their bodies showed signs of surviving extreme environments, illnesses, pressures, and stress. But the most surprising element was their mental stability. Even when exposed to intense scanning light and vibrating sound waves, humans remained calm. Their heartbeat barely changed. One alien scientist whispered that humans were like living weapons. Another asked if humans were hiding some deeper evolution. A third wondered if human history was filled with horrors that shaped this strange calmness. Meanwhile, Mara and her crew waited quietly, chatting about how the station's air smelled cleaner than their ship's recycled atmosphere. This simple conversation left alien scientists speechless. No species had ever talked so casually during an Imperial scan. After the examination, the alien officers guided the humans toward a large meeting chamber. The room was circular, with a high ceiling shaped like a dome. The center held a floating hologram of the galaxy, glowing with thousands of tiny lights. The humans looked at it with fascination. The High Commander finally entered. He was tall, dignified, and carried an aura of authority. His armor was marked with ancient symbols of leadership. When he looked at the humans, his expression shifted slightly, not because of fear, but because he did not understand them. He began speaking slowly, explaining that the Galactic Empire wanted to know more about humans, where they came from, how they lived, and what they wanted. Mara answered with honesty. She explained Earth, humanity's struggles, their history of conflict and survival. She spoke of storms, earthquakes, wars, diseases, and space disasters. She spoke of human creativity, curiosity, and their endless drive to explore. She spoke simply modestly, without pride or fear. The aliens listened carefully. With each sentence, their confusion grew. Humans had faced countless threats and survived. They had walked through danger so many times that it shaped their nature. To the aliens, this was astonishing. To the humans, it was normal life. The High Commander realized something important. Humans did not act fearless because they wanted to intimidate the Empire. They acted fearless because they had lived through things that most species would consider impossible. The room fell silent as the aliens processed this truth. The humans stood quietly, waiting. Their calmness hung in the air like a strange, powerful energy. The High Commander understood that these humans were not weak visitors, not reckless explorers, and not overconfident fools. They were something far more rare, beings who carried survival in their bones. And that made the Galactic Empire unsure of what would happen next. The meeting chamber stayed silent for several long moments after Mara finished speaking. The humans waited calmly, their expressions open and relaxed, while the alien officers exchanged uncertain glances. To them, the explanation of human history sounded unbelievable. They could not understand how any species could survive so many disasters and remain so steady in their emotions. It was not logical to them. It was unsettling. The High Commander studied Mara with careful eyes. Her voice had been simple and honest. There was no attempt to impress them, no attempt to hide anything. This honesty made her even more mysterious. He folded his hands behind his back and stepped toward the holographic galaxy display. Its blue lights reflected on his armor as he spoke. He explained that the Galactic Empire had existed for thousands of years. It was built through many wars, many victories, and many treaties. Over time, most species learned that peace with the Empire was safer than rebellion against it. Only a few species ever tried to stand against the Empire, and none survived long. The Empire believed it had seen every kind of life in the galaxy. But now, these humans had appeared with a calmness unlike anything the Empire understood. The humans listened with respect. Mara nodded slowly, appreciating the scale of what he described. Leo whispered quietly that the Empire sounded like an old universe-sized government that had become too used to controlling everything. Mara gave him a soft look, warning him to stay polite, but the alien translators caught the whisper and their eyes widened. To them, Leo's comments sounded like criticism spoken without fear. This only deepened their confusion. The High Commander pretended not to react, but inside he felt a strange discomfort. Was this calmness natural, or was it a sign of something dangerous hidden beneath the surface? He had never met a species who looked at the Empire with such relaxed confidence. He wondered if humans truly understood where they were, or if they understood too well. He decided he needed to test them. A soft signal echoed through the chamber. A set of doors opened, revealing a small platform that began rising from below. On it sat a device made of silver metal, glowing with thin rings of blue light. The High Commander explained that it was an emotional resonance scanner. It was designed to measure truthfulness, hidden fear, and psychological stability. Every species that entered the Empire for the first time was scanned with it. Most reacted with visible stress, some even fainted. The humans looked at the device with curiosity. Mara agreed to the scan. She stepped forward, placed her hand on the panel, and waited. A beam of soft blue light scanned her body, then her face, then her eyes. The aliens monitored the readings as symbols filled their screens. Her stress level stayed low. Her heart stayed steady. Her mind showed no fear. The scan ended and the machine emitted a soft confirmation note. The alien scientists looked at each other in disbelief. Mara stepped aside calmly. Leo went next. The same result. Then the rest of the human crew. One by one, all of them passed with the same stable readings. The alien scientists whispered urgently among themselves. This had never happened before. Not once in the Empire's long history had an entire group from a new species shown such emotional control during resonance scanning. Most species believed the test was dangerous. Some thought it detected lies. Others feared it would expose secrets. But humans behaved as if they were sitting for a medical checkup. The High Commander felt something shift inside him. These humans were not an accident, not a simple species lost in space. They were something new, something unpredictable, and something that might change the balance of power. He ended the testing and asked the humans to follow him. They walked down a long corridor with tall windows showing the vast stretch of space outside. The alien station's lights reflected on the humans' faces as they admired everything around them. Mara asked polite questions about the station's design and construction. Leo asked how many ships the Empire controlled. The aliens answered carefully, always watching for signs of fear or awe. But the humans reacted with thoughtful interest instead of intimidation. The High Commander decided to take them to a place no outsider had ever seen. He led them into a large spherical room. The walls were made of transparent crystal. As soon as the lights dimmed, the crystal walls became alive with bright streams of data, glowing symbols, and swirling star maps. It looked like they were standing inside a living galaxy. The humans' eyes widened with wonder. Even Mara allowed herself a quiet breath of amazement. The High Commander explained that this chamber showed the Empire's strategic awareness. Every ship, every patrol, every star system under their control was displayed here. To the aliens, this room was the heart of their military power. It was a secret. It was sacred. The humans looked at it like it was art. Leo whispered that it looked like an interactive museum exhibit. One of the alien officers almost dropped his data tablet in shock. The humans were not intentionally being disrespectful. They simply saw beauty where others saw danger. Mara asked how far the Empire extended. The High Commander pointed to the outer rings, explaining that the Empire controlled 1/4 of the galaxy. The humans nodded, impressed but not overwhelmed. Mara explained that humanity had always wondered how large other civilizations might be. Now they had an answer. The aliens expected fear. They saw curiosity. This unsettled the High Commander more than anything else that had happened. He turned to face Mara and asked the question that had been troubling him since the beginning. He asked why humans were not afraid, why they reacted with steady calm, why they treated danger, power, and uncertainty like familiar things. Mara took a moment before answering. She looked at her crew, then at the glowing galaxy around them. She spoke simply, explaining that humans learned calmness not from strength, but from difficulty. They had spent centuries fighting nature, disease, hunger, and each other. They had experienced chaos so many times that they learned to stay steady even when the world changed around them. Fear did not disappear. It became something they managed, something they lived with. Humans were not fearless. They were trained by life itself to hold fear inside without letting it control them. The High Commander listened without speaking. He understood the words, but the meaning felt strange. A species shaped by struggle was different from a species shaped by peace. Humans had walked through darkness, and it showed in their steady eyes. The alien officers stood quietly, their minds racing. The humans had accidentally entered the Empire, but what they brought with them was something far more powerful than any weapon the aliens had ever seen. They brought calmness, the kind of calm that unsettled empires. The High Commander walked slowly around the humans, studying their faces as if searching for something hidden beneath their expressions. The glowing star chamber surrounded them with drifting lights, casting long shadows across the smooth crystal floor. The humans stood calmly, their postures relaxed, their breathing steady. This behavior made the alien officers uneasy. They were used to fear, respect, or anything but quiet confidence. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the soft hum of the data streams filled the room. Then the High Commander asked Mara to follow him into a separate chamber. She nodded and told her crew to wait. The alien guards kept a close eye on the humans, expecting nervous reactions. Instead, the crew simply sat on the smooth benches and began talking softly about the beautiful view of space. Inside the private chamber, the High Commander activated a large display showing several strange, dark regions of the galaxy. He explained that the Empire had enemies, dangerous ones. Some were old foes, others were new threats rising from the outer systems. There were whispers of a shadow fleet, a force that attacked without warning and vanished without leaving any trail. Unknown ships destroyed colonies, outposts, and even entire fleets. He asked if humans had ever encountered such enemies. Mara answered honestly. She said humans had dealt with many threats over the years. Some natural, some created by themselves. She did not claim humans were the strongest species, nor did she say they had faced something like the Shadow Fleet. But she explained something else. Humans never gave up when danger arrived. They adapted, they learned, they survived. The High Commander listened carefully. He had expected fear in her voice. Instead, he heard understanding. It made him wonder if the humans' calmness came from the belief that they could face anything, even the unknown. He knew the Empire had lost 3 fleets to the Shadow attacks. He wondered if these humans might be the key to a new strategy or a new threat. He asked if humans were willing to assist the Empire in understanding this unknown danger. Mara hesitated for a moment. She did not want to promise anything reckless. She said humanity had no intention of starting conflicts with anyone. But if peace required cooperation, humans were willing to help explore and understand threats. Her answer was steady, logical, respectful. The High Commander appreciated that. Outside the chamber, Leo and the crew continued observing the swirling star maps. One of the alien scientists approached them, holding a tablet filled with data. He asked questions about human biology, environment, and mental stamina. The humans answered casually, explaining how their bodies adapted to cold, heat, pressure, and stress. They talked about challenging jobs on Earth, dangerous storms, and long journeys across the ocean. The alien scientist listened with shock. Everything humans described sounded like survival training. The scientist asked how often humans faced danger. Leo laughed lightly and said it depended on the country. Some places were peaceful, some were chaotic, but even peaceful places had storms, fires, accidents, and challenges. The aliens realized humans grew up in a world that shaped them into adaptable beings without even trying. Their calmness was not training, it was life. A sudden alarm echoed through the station. The lights dimmed for a second, then flashed bright red. The humans stood up quickly, alert but not panicked. Alien officers rushed into the star chamber, shouting commands in their own language. The station vibrated as heavy doors sealed across several corridors. A deep rumble spread through the metal floors. Mara and the High Commander stepped out of the private room just as another alarm sounded. A large hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a dark shape moving toward the station. The alien officers stiffened. The High Commander's voice dropped low. It was one of the unknown ships. The humans looked at the hologram with curiosity. The dark ship was shaped like a shard of shadow, with no lights, no engines visible, no markings. It moved silently, leaving no energy trail. The Empire had tried for years to understand this enemy, but their technology failed to detect it properly. The High Commander ordered the station's shields to full power. The humans watched the alien crew scramble into position. Mara stepped forward and asked if they needed help. The High Commander did not understand what she meant at first. Humans had no weapons. Their ship was weak. But Mara explained she meant strategic support, observations, ideas, anything useful. Humans were good at noticing patterns during chaos. The High Commander hesitated, then agreed. He needed every advantage. The shadow ship moved closer. Alien officers reported rising energy from the unknown vessel. But the readings were wrong, too unstable, too chaotic. Their sensors shook, glitching with static. The humans noticed something strange. The shadow ship did not move like a machine. It moved like something alive, flowing through space like a creature. Leo mentioned this quietly, and the alien scientists froze. They had never considered that possibility. The High Commander asked for more human observations. Mara noticed that the shadow ship seemed to drift, not fly. It adjusted its direction late, as if responding to invisible waves in space. She suggested that it might be sensing something the Empire could not detect, maybe gravitational disturbances or energy fields. Her simple theory made the alien science team rush to adjust their instruments. The station shook again. A beam of dark energy shot from the shadow ship, hitting the shields. The impact was strong enough to push the massive station slightly off its axis. Lights flickered. Alarms echoed. Alien officers gasped in fear. The humans remained steady. Leo analyzed the fading shields and pointed out where the energy was draining fastest. Mara suggested strengthening the lower ring, where the shadow ship shook under the targeted blasts, its dark surface rippling like liquid disturbed by a stone. For the first time, the Galactic Empire saw their weapons create an effect, however small. A quiet gasp passed through the room filled with alien officers. Their eyes shifted quickly between the weakened ripple on the enemy vessel and the calm humans who had suggested the strategy. The humans stood close together, watching the hologram with sharp attention, their faces steady but focused. The High Commander ordered another strike, this time more precise. The fleet redirected their beams toward the shifting ripple patterns on the shadow ship's hull. Bright lines of energy shot through space and hit those vulnerable points again. The enemy trembled, its form bending slightly as if in pain. A low vibration echoed through the station, followed by a brief moment of silence. The humans exchanged quick glances. They were not celebrating, they were analyzing. The alien officers, however, stared at the humans with quiet disbelief. They had been battling this unknown enemy for years, losing ships, losing soldiers, losing hope. Now a group of humans, calm, curious, unfazed, had seen something no Imperial strategist ever noticed. The High Commander turned to Mara, his voice low and serious. He asked how humans knew to look for movement patterns. Mara shrugged lightly and explained that humans were used to reading danger through small signs. On Earth, even animals and storms gave early warnings if one learned to watch closely. Human survival often depended on noticing what others ignored. Her simple explanation made the alien officers exchange nervous looks. To them, this meant humans had lived in a world so harsh that they learned to see danger in nature itself. It sounded terrifying, but it also sounded like power. Another alarm shook the chamber. The shadow ship was charging something new. A swirl of dark energy formed around its core, growing brighter with each pulse. Alien scientists shouted reports. They could not identify the type of energy. It was unstable, unpredictable, and large enough to break through the station's reinforced shields. The High Commander stiffened. If the attack hit the station directly, thousands of lives would be lost. Myra stepped closer to the hologram, her eyes focused on the pulsing core. Leo joined her, pointing to a strange rotation in the shadow energy. It spun in two directions at once, like a twisting storm. Myra realized something important. She spoke sharply, telling the High Commander that the shadow ship's attack was unstable on its own. If the Empire fired at the exact moment the dark energy peaked, it might cause the attack to collapse inward. The aliens stared at her. The High Commander asked how sure she was. Mara answered honestly, not completely sure. But she also said that waiting would be worse. Humans knew that sometimes survival required acting before perfect information arrived. The High Commander closed his eyes for a long second. Then he gave the order. All Imperial ships aimed their weapons at the shadow ship's core. They waited for Mara's signal. She studied the pulse, slow, fast, until she saw the moment when both rotations aligned. She raised her hand. The fleet fired. A bright explosion lit the star chamber. The hologram flared white as space outside shook with a violent shockwave. The shadow ship's attack twisted inward, collapsing like a dying star. The enemy vessel bent, cracked, and then tore apart as dark fragments dissolved into nothing. Silence filled the station. No one moved, no one breathed. The unknown enemy had been defeated for the first time. The humans watched quietly, their expressions thoughtful. They were not cheering. They were simply relieved that the station was safe. To them, the victory felt like solving a dangerous problem with teamwork. To the aliens, however, it felt like witnessing something impossible. The High Commander slowly turned to the humans. For the first time, the tension in his posture softened. His eyes, usually sharp and commanding, now carried something different, respect, and perhaps a quiet fear. He thanked the humans, his voice steady but heavy. He said the Empire owed them a debt. Mara nodded lightly, saying they only did what anyone would do in that moment. The alien officers nearly choked at her words. No species had ever acted the way humans had. Not with such calm, not with such clarity during chaos. The High Commander asked the humans to follow him once more, this time to a chamber reserved only for leaders of the Empire. The humans agreed, walking through long hallways lit by soft blue lights. The station had stopped shaking, but the atmosphere remained tense. Aliens passing by stared at the humans with wide eyes, whispering in their own languages. The humans ignored the attention. They were used to strange looks from unexpected situations in their own world. This felt no different. Inside the leader's chamber, the High Commander revealed something the humans had not expected. He explained that the Empire had suspected the Shadow Fleet was operated by something non-biological. Their ships acted like creatures, but had no crew. They were powered by dark energy unknown to the Empire, and each attack seemed designed to study military responses rather than destroy. He believed the Shadow Fleet was scouting the galaxy for weaknesses. Mara and Leo exchanged a quick look. Humans had seen strategic probing before in their own wars. It meant the shadow enemy was testing the Empire, measuring reactions, learning defenses, waiting for the right moment to strike. The High Commander asked if humans would consider joining a temporary alliance to investigate further. Not as soldiers, but as advisors and partners. He said their unique perspective might be invaluable. The humans took a moment to discuss quietly. They wanted to help, but they were also cautious. They did not want humanity dragged into a war. Mara finally answered. She said humans were willing to assist in understanding the threat, but only if it helped protect peace and not provoke conflict. The High Commander accepted her terms with relief. For the first time since the humans arrived, his voice held a softer tone. The Empire had gained something rare, allies who did not seek power, fear, or control. Allies who simply wanted to make sense of the unknown. As they prepared to return to their ship for rest, the alien officers watched them walk away. Their calm steps, steady posture, and quiet conversation made the officers think again about something they could not understand. Humans had stared into the face of an enemy that terrified the entire Empire. Yet they remained unshaken. The Empire had weapons and armies, but humans had something else, something the aliens had never seen before. They had unbreakable calm. The humans walked back toward their ship with slow, steady steps. The station's long corridor glowed with pale silver light, and the hum of distant engines vibrated gently through the air. Alien officers stood along the sides, watching the humans pass with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Some bowed their heads slightly in respect. Others whispered about the victory they had just witnessed. The humans simply nodded politely and continued forward. Inside the human ship, the crew gathered in the main cabin. The screens still showed traces of the recent battle, and the ship's panels flickered gently as they adjusted. Mara sat at the central console and looked around at her tired but calm crew. She asked if everyone was all right. They all nodded, some giving small, relieved smiles. Leo joked that he had expected to die at least once that day, and the others laughed softly. Their laughter echoed gently inside the quiet ship. Meanwhile, the High Commander stood in the observation room of the station, staring through the massive glass window at the stars. He replayed the entire event in his mind, the humans' calmness, their strange ability to observe danger with such clarity, their unexpected help in defeating the shadow ship. He felt something heavy inside him, something he had not felt in a long time. Hope. He opened a communication line to Mara. She answered at once. Her face appeared on the screen, calm as always. The High Commander told her that the Empire wanted to honor the humans with recognition and hospitality. Mara thanked him, but explained they wished to return to their own people soon. She said humanity needed to know what happened, and they needed to discuss any long-term cooperation carefully. The High Commander accepted this with understanding. But before ending the call, he said something that surprised even himself. He said the Empire now saw humans not as intruders or simple explorers, but as potential equals. Mara paused, then nodded with quiet appreciation. After the call ended, the High Commander looked at his officers. He ordered them to treat the humans with complete respect, to provide anything they required for their journey home, and to study everything they had learned from the Shadow ship encounter. The officers bowed their heads and quickly moved to their tasks. Back in the human ship, the crew prepared for departure. The docking clamps released, and the engines warmed with bright blue light. The ship drifted slowly away from the station, guided at first by small beacon lights. The alien fleet formed a gentle escort around them, not as guards, but as respectful companions. The humans watched through their windows as the massive station grew smaller. The fleet ships moved with perfect formation, their designs elegant and powerful. Lee commented softly that the Empire was beautiful in its own way. Mara agreed, but she also said beauty did not mean safety. The crew understood. Humanity had seen many beautiful places hide danger. Once the escort ended at the border of the Empire's territory, the alien ships drifted to a stop. The High Commander's voice came through the radio. He thanked the humans again and said the Empire's doors would remain open to them. Mara answered politely, saying they would return if needed. The transmission ended and the stars became silent again. The humans plotted their jump home. Before activating the jump system, Mara stood up and looked at her crew. She told them what the High Commander had said about treating humans as equals. The crew exchanged looks of surprise and pride. It felt strange to them, being considered equal to a massive empire. But it also felt right. Humans had earned their place not through strength, but through calmness and clarity. Leo asked if they should celebrate when they reached home. Mara smiled slightly and said they would celebrate only after reporting everything. Humanity needed to be prepared. They now knew the galaxy was filled with great powers and unknown threats. The Shadow fleet was out there, studying, watching, waiting. The humans understood danger would return someday. But they also understood they would face it. The jump engines activated, filling the cabin with soft blue light. The ship trembled gently before slipping into the jump corridor. The stars stretched into long lines of light. The galaxy blurred into brilliant waves. Everything outside turned into a flowing river of energy. Inside, the humans relaxed. Some leaned back in their seats. Some closed their eyes. Others softly shared jokes. Even after everything they had experienced, alien empires, unknown enemies, impossible battles, they remained calm. Hours passed before the ship emerged into familiar space. Earth's distant sun glowed softly in the distance. The humans smiled. They were home, their screens lit up with messages from Earth's command center demanding explanations for their unexpected absence. Mara and the crew laughed quietly again. They had many things to explain. As they approached Earth, Mara watched the blue and green planet grow larger. She felt a slow warmth in her chest. Humanity had always been small in the universe, but now they carried something new. They carried knowledge of the Empire. They carried the respect of a civilization older than their own. They carried a victory against a threat that terrified the galaxy. And more than anything, they carried the calmness that had confused, impressed, and frightened an entire empire. When the humans landed and stepped out onto their home soil, they were greeted by officials, scientists, and military leaders. They asked question after question, wanting to understand everything. Mara explained the Empire, the Shadow ships, and the strange reaction aliens had to human behavior. She spoke simply, without exaggeration. Her crew supported every detail. Earth's leaders listened with growing seriousness. They knew that humanity had stepped into something far bigger than themselves. They knew the galaxy was watching now, and they knew they needed to prepare for the future. But they also knew something else. If danger came again, humans would not run. They would not panic. They would stand with the same calmness that had unsettled an empire. As night fell over Earth, Mara walked alone to the balcony overlooking the landing bay. She watched ships arriving and leaving, lights glowing against the dark sky. She thought about the Empire, the High Commander, and the Shadow enemy. She thought about the galaxy waiting silently in the distance. And she whispered to herself the truth